Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Data Platform Virtual Summit 2022. My name is Hugo Barona, and before we start with our session today, I would like to first thank the organizers team for putting all the efforts to organize such great events and also to give me this opportunity to be part of this event and be part of the great list of speakers for these events. And also thank you very much in advance for your availability to be here, and I hope you enjoy our session and find it useful. So the session of today is related to getting started building data solutions on Azure. And the idea of this session is pretty much to give you an understanding and get some knowledge about uh, the data service available on Azure, and also how you can use each of these service in the different scenarios that you may find and may have, including the different requirements while building your data solutions on Azure. So, and before we dive into the details of this session, I would like to, of course, start by doing an introduction of myself. So I'm a cloud solutions architect with experience and background in software development. Most of my experience using um, Microsoft stack technologies while leveraging, of course, the open source related technologies. Also, I'm a Microsoft Azure MVP and Microsoft certified trainer. On my free time, I try to find some time to deliver some training to some of the Microsoft training partners, and also whenever I have some extra time, I I tend to author some course related to technology and cloud to Plural sites, and of course on the extra time I also try to refresh my knowledge and also get some new skills in relation to new service added to the cloud. So I tend to spend some time studying for Microsoft certifications and exams, and that's pretty much me. So, and before we start to discuss the service you have available, um, to use while building your data solutions, it is important to talk about the common data roles in teams building data solutions on Azure, and of course their duties and tasks, so you can understand more about these roles and help you, especially if you are considering a career change to work in any of these roles. So we start by talking about the data engineer role, which typically has responsibilities about gathering data from multiple source of data and also organizing that data in a way that makes it easy for the rest of the team to process and use that data. Also, they are typically responsible for the process to gather that data, organize, and even securely store that data to ensure that the data is available to the full team and the organization. And it's, of course, stored securely as well. Then, of course, we have the data analysts. That typically is a person that's so after the data is available to your team and to your organization, typically the data analyst will be analyzing the data, and of course, while analyzing the data, sometimes they may need to clean the data because possibly they will not need to use all the data, or some data may need to be transformed and converted from one type to the other, or even transformed to compose new information based on the raw information available. And of course, at the end, the one of the main tasks of the data analyst is to create visualizations and dashboards that enable the team and the end users to do data exploration, while to pretty much get data insights from the data and also understands the data available. And last but not least, the other role that I want to share with you is data scientist. So data scientist has some tasks really similar and similarities in terms of tasks and duties to the data analysts, but with a main difference, where data analyst typically acts and works with historic data to just extract insights from that data, whereas data scientist typically is a role more typically associated with building machine learning and artificial intelligence solutions to introduce the capability of making future predictions based on historic data. So that means apart from analyzing data, cleaning the data, and even transforming the data, and also, of course, creating visualizations and dashboards, data scientists as well may need to apply statistical techniques to analyze the data, and also, of course, build machine learning and artificial intelligence solutions using that data to make available the predictions, the future predictions to the team, so they can make those predictions and try to empower their business and their organization based on those solutions. Okay, so these are just three of the common data roles that I want to share with you. Of course, each of these roles have associated certifications and exams. I'll share later more details to you about this. How you, in case you are interested in any of these roles, how you can get ready and get started preparing um, to each of these roles, and also how you can start to build your knowledge and experience, hands-on experience as well, in each of these roles as well. But before we dive into certifications, I also want to share with you some details about the process of building the common process of building a data solution, because of course this process may vary a bit depending on the solution and the service that you are using, and of course the approach, but typically there is some patterns and common steps that you really need to take into consideration while building your data solution. And we start with the first, of course, the ingestion. So typically, you don't have the data, all the data you need available. So you need to ingest the data from different data source. Can be data source inside your environment, or also can be data source, external data source that are hosted somewhere else. And of course, you may need to use different service depending on the scenario to just access that data and ingest the data. So, of course, while ingesting the data, you need to consider the type of data you are ingesting. So, for example, you can be ingesting streaming data, including big data streams, or even ingesting data from IoT device in real time, or other scenarios that you may need to ingest data in batches, and of course big volumes of historical data that you can pretty much ingest not in real time, but offline, and whenever the data is available, then your teams can work on that data. Once you ingest the data, of course, you need to store the data, and that means you need to persist and securely store that data in any of the in any of the service available on Azure. And of course, you may end up using one or more data stores to store your data, including, of course, storage accounts and data lake storage. Once you store the data, then you can proceed to the next step, which is related to process and enrich that data. So that means you can perform tasks such as clean the data, also because you may be, as I mentioned before, you may be consuming data there are no values for certain uh, uh, certain entries, and you may, well, possibly you don't want to consider those entries if if the values are missing for a certain columns, or even if you need to, for example, scale the data to a standard scale to ensure and optimize the results of that data while analyzing the data. Also, you may need to validate the data to ensure that the data that you are using is valid. Also, transform the data based on your needs, and you can also consider to enrich the data using artificial intelligence and machine learning as well. So during the demo, you'll see one example on how you can enrich your data using the cognitive service available. But pretty much what I'm saying here is you definitely have service available on Azure that enables you to enrich your raw data to perform several tasks such as analyzing sentiment from your data, extracting key phrases from your data, extracting people, buildings, cities, countries, names, identifying language, translating content, and many more. And once you process and enrich your data, of course, you need to make that data available. So in this case, it comes the stage of serving the data, and this includes serving the data to using analytic tools such as Power BI. So it enables your end users to connect via Power BI to your data and use those reports and dashboards available to perform their analysis and extract insights from the data. Also, of course, this enables them to analyze the data and drive business decisions in a more conscious way because they are able to extract useful insights from the data. And so when it comes to build data solutions on Azure, you have, of course, as I mentioned, plenty of options available. And sometimes deciding what and when to use may be, of course, a challenge due to the variety of options that you have available. So in this diagram, I want to just share with you an overview of the different options that you have available and just try to explain some details about each of these services that you have available. So, of course, on the left, you have the data source, including structured and unstructured data available on your database, logs and files, including image, video, and more. And of course, you may have business apps providing information to your data solution, okay, including, for example, common scenarios of on-premise applications that are somehow providing data via, for example, an API, and you need to consume that API to extract the data and process the data in the clouds. So when designing your data solutions, typically, of course, the first stage is designing a data ingestion strategy. You have plenty of options available, and the service you should use will depend on of course, the data source you are trying to use and to ingest the data. So you have, of course, for example, Data Factory that enables you to create data-driven workflows using pipelines to ingest the data from various data sources. And the best of these services with no codes. Okay, so that's really important. Also, you have streaming-based solutions such as Event Hub and IoT Hub that enables you to ingest data from big data streams and the IoT device, and to discover and manage efficiently your data source. You have also one important service that you can use, which is the Azure Data Catalog, which got, of course, recently rebranded to Azure Purview. Or even if you need, of course, to share temporary data with your colleagues, then or your team, or even external collaborators, in, of course, an easy way. That's the most important part sometimes, because you need to empower your productivity and maximize the time as much as possible. Then you can use the Azure Data Share to pretty much share the data using a no-code approach and easily share the data with your team and your colleagues. And after ingesting your data, you need, of course, to design a solution to store your data. You have several services available, and depending on the data source, the type of data you are ingesting, and what you plan to do with that data, you may end up using one or more of the service available, of course. So if you want to store your data using hierarchical structure, you can use data lake storage and then perform analysis of your data. In case you are looking to store massive quantities of historical data and, for example, build a data warehouse, then you can use Azure Synapse Analytics and build your fact and dimension tables, and use, of course, materialized views to create your cubes. And of course, if you are building an online transaction processing system, you can use Azure SQL database to store your structured data in a relational database, and Azure Storage to store unstructured data, and or even Cosmos DB to store semi-structured data as well. So you have, as you can see, many different services available, and all it comes when deciding which of these to use. It's important that you understand mainly the data that you are trying to ingest and the data that you need to use. So depending on that, it will help you decide the service that you may need to use. And of course, if you need to perform analytics of your data, then you can use some of the analytics service available, including Stream Analytics, HD Insights, and Analysis Service to ingest data from multiple source and transform and model your data. Also, you can build machine learning solutions using the Apache Spark-based platform known as Azure Databricks, or the Azure Machine Learning Service, and no-code features such as the automated machine learning that enables anyone and everyone to build machine learning solutions on Azure. And of course, if you have requirements to introduce intelligence to your solutions, then you have some options available, including the bot service to implement chatbots, or even you can use cognitive service to perform tasks such as text analysis, sentiment analysis to identify the sentiment in your text that you are processing, or even image and video processing. So for example, sentiment analysis, one of the projects I worked a few years ago was about, for a customer, was about processing tweets and postings on social related to their products and service, and try to analyze the sentiment of those products and service to understand the overall sentiment of their customers in relation to their products and services. So that was a easy way to build an automated solution to follow on to their customers and understand the satisfaction of their customers that were sharing feedback about their products and service on social. Also, image and video processing, you have several scenarios that you can use, including video cameras in your house to detect if someone is at the door, or even in the streets to identify people. So some cities nowadays have protection about using CCTV systems to record people in the streets, and in case there is any incidents, any problem, they can easily identify and understand who caused the problem and what happened. Also, you have services such as the cognitive search to provide seamless search capabilities to your applications. So you can also build index in search, import your data to search, and then serve that data together with the search capabilities to your applications, and enable your users, the users of your apps, to easily search your data and find the relevant results they are looking for. Also, you have, of course, data visualization and exploration, including Power BI. You can build visualizations, reports, and dashboards, and of course, enable your users and your team to extract useful insights and make conscious business decisions based on your data. So that's pretty much it. The idea is to just give you an understanding on some of the service you have available. Of course, there are other services available, but the idea was to just compile some of the most common service used and give you an understanding on the different stages that you should use this service and how you can use them. Also, of course, on in the bottom there is the source, the link where I extracted this image to just support this slide. Now, one important detail when it comes to, as I mentioned before, if you want to prepare yourself to any of these roles, and if you want to learn more about the data service available and how you can get started using them, an easy way, in my personal opinion, is of course to study for the Microsoft exams and get the Microsoft certifications available, because you have curated content available in a guided process that you can just do next, complete the modules and get ready and prepared for the exam. So then you can, during the exam, assess your knowledge and find out your gaps and mitigate your gaps and improve your knowledge and skills using this data service on Azure. So what I want to share with you here is, first, of course, the starting point should be, well, at least that's what I would recommend, is by starting with the Azure Fundamental certifications. So if you are not familiar, you have several Azure Fundamental certifications available. The best part is nowadays you can attend the Microsoft Virtual Training Days, and for free you can get training and also get a voucher to do your Azure Fundamental certification. Three certifications that I want to highlight here are, first, Azure AI Fundamentals, that enables you to build the foundations related to artificial intelligence service available on Azure and how you can get started building AI solutions on Azure. Then Azure Fundamentals, of course, you will be building data solutions on Azure, so you need to be aware and you need to know more about Azure and the different services you have available, how you can manage your environments, your subscriptions. And so this certification provides you a way to build those foundations and learn some important concepts when it comes to use Azure and build solutions on Azure. And last but not least, of course, you have the Azure Data Solutions, Azure Data Fundamentals, that enables you to pretty much learn all the foundations about the data service available on Azure and how you can get started building and using those services to build your data solutions. Then, of course, we have the specialization certifications. Okay, you have the Azure Data Engineer that allows you to, of course, learn some key and relevant skills related to the data engineer role, including data processing. You learn about services such as Data Factory, Synapse Analytics, and even Stream Analytics. Also data storage, including learning about data lake storage, Synapse Analytics again to store your data in a data warehouse, and also storage accounts and data security. So you will learn all about role-based access control lists, and also data auditing and masking to protect your data. Then you have the Azure Data Scientists. So you learn to develop machine learning solutions, train and deploy your machine learning models to different targets, including Azure Container Instance and the Azure Kubernetes Service, and also how to design your machine learning model while taking into consideration important principles, including responsible machine learning and fairness of your models. Also, you have the Azure Enterprise Data Analyst. It's all about learning how to use Power BI to pretty much build enterprise as analysis, data analysis solutions, and enable your teams to do data analysis and data exploration to extract insights from the data. And last but not least, you have also one important and useful certification, which is Power BI Data Analyst, which is once again really focused on Power BI. So you will learn things such as prepare and model your data, visualize and analyze data, deploy and maintain your solutions in Power Platform, and also how to use in general Power BI as well. Starting point for all of this is, of course, the Microsoft Learn. So you can access the link aka.ms/learn, and you have all the information, relevant information related to these certifications, and also how you can get started, including for each certification and exam, the links to the modules that you need to complete to get ready and prepared for the exam. And let's proceed now to demo. It's demo time. This presentation is definitely really focused on hands-on experience. So I will spend some good time in the demo to just give you an understanding on how to build an end-to-end solution using Azure Data Service. So in this demo, we are going to start by creating the resource that we need, including storage accounts, data factory, Cosmos DB, Azure Search, and cognitive service. And we will end, of course, with I will show you a quickly how you can easily use the template available to use Power BI to connect with your data and provide some visualizations to your end users. So, sorry, on the storage accounts, we are going to have a data set which is pretty much a list of movies, and for each movie we have several columns with relevant information related to the movie, including the genres, the year, and even the rating of the movie, and of course the title, the name of the movie, and pretty much we have these data sets stored in a CSV file, and we want to process this file and import that data to Cosmos DB using, in this case, Data Factory and the pipeline. And then on Cosmos, we are going to leverage the built-in connectors available on Azure to first import and create an Azure Search instance and import the data from Cosmos DB to Azure Search, to then just show you how you can easily build your index there and provide search capabilities to your end users. Also, we are going to I'm going to show you how you can use cognitive service to connect with Azure Search and enrich your data while importing your data to Azure Search. And last but not least, I'm going to show you how you can leverage the templates for a report available for Power BI and connect to Cosmos DB to import the data, read the data that you have available on Cosmos DB, and show that data in some useful visualizations using Power BI. So let's start by going to the Azure Portal. So if you are not familiar with Azure Portal, so you can access the Azure Portal using the URL portal.azure.com. Of course, you need an Azure account. If you don't have an Azure account, you can pretty much get started by creating an account for free. You will have some limited time to use an available credit. I think it's $150 or $200. I'm not sure, to be honest, but you have limited credits that you can use for certain time, and then after that you can use your accounts without paying, only limited of course for free service. So there are services available on Azure that are free currently for lifetime. So and unless something change, but for now they are free for forever. So we are in the portal and we are going to start by creating our resource. So we are going to start by, pretty much just to explain to you, I created a resource group dedicated to this presentation. And what I'm going to do is, if you're not familiar with the resource group, it's pretty much just a logical container to group your resource. And now let's start by creating our resource. So we are going to the marketplace in the Azure portal, and let's start by searching for storage accounts. We are going to create our storage accounts. Don't worry so much. So if you are not familiar with Azure portal and creating this resource and service, so typically you have a wizard that you need to fill in some parameters in order to create your instance, the instance of the service and the resource. So don't worry for now so much about the parameters. I will share with you some relevant resource that you can use to explore more each of these service and explore each of these parameters and understand. I would say definitely the best way for you to learn all these things is by having some hands-on experience. So definitely it would worth for you to spend some time, try to reproduce what I'm doing here, or even try to use the resource I will share with you. There are some hands-on there are some practice exercise there as well that enable you to put in practice all these topics that we are discussing here. Okay, so for now we start by selecting the subscription resource group. Then we need to give a name for the accounts. So I'm going to call it STDPS demo. I'm going to select a region, in this case North Europe. The performance, I'm going to leave the standards. In scenarios that you require low latency, you can use premium performance. And also in terms of redundancy and replication of data, I'm going to select the cheapest, which is local redundant storage. I'm going to just proceed to the review step and create our storage accounts. Okay, while this is creating, let's proceed to create our second resource. In this case, I'm going to create the Cosmos DB. So I just search for Cosmos DB. I'm going to create. If you are not familiar with Cosmos DB, this is a NoSQL database service. And the most important thing here is you have different APIs available, including Core SQL, which is the recommended one. You also have Cassandra. You also have MongoDB. In case you have an existing MongoDB database, you can consider to migrate your data here to Cosmos and start using your application without changing any code by just leveraging this MongoDB API. Also, you have Azure Table API in case you want to store data in column in a table format, and also Gremlin for scenarios that you need to build a graph database and with data composed by nodes and links between those nodes, then you can definitely use the Gremlin API. For the purpose of this demo, I'm going to select the Core SQL API, and once again, I'm going to give it a name, Cosmos DPS demo. I'm going to select a region, North Europe. I'm going to select the capacity mode. I'm going to leave the default. Also, one important detail, you have a free tier discount available. So that means the first 1000 R units or request units and the first 25 gigabytes of storage you don't pay. So request units is pretty much the billing unit for this service. So it's pretty much every operation you do, including queries or even insert operations or updates, will have always an associated request unit. Okay, so I'm going to proceed to review and create, and I'm going to create my Cosmos DB accounts, because this one will take a bit of time. Hopefully, in the meantime, while we create the other resource, it gives us time. It gives Azure time to provision our Cosmos DB accounts. Now let's create our data factory, which is another resource we are going to use. So once again, same process, subscription resource group, then a name. I'm going to call it DPS demo. Then the location and the version, which is only v2 available. One important detail here while creating your data factory: there is a step related to Git configuration. So in terms of Git configuration, you have support to configure and connect your repository with your data factory. Your repository available on Azure DevOps or even GitHub. Okay. The purpose of this is to pretty much enable you to store your configurations that you build while building your pipelines and your data sets and so on. Store all of these in your repository so you don't lose it. So, but for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to just enable this configure Git later option because it's not relevant to this demo. I just want to share with you these facts. So we have our storage accounts, we have our data factory, we have our Cosmos DB. Now let's create, of course, our Azure search. So once again, we just search for Azure search, and we have here Azure Cognitive Search, and we create. So once again, the resource group, I'm going to give it a name, search DPS demo, select the region and or the location, and then the scale I'm going to leave the defaults, which is standard. One important detail is in relation to, actually, let me just show you. In relation to the pricing tier, just for your information, in case you want to give it a try with this service, Azure Search, you have a free tier that enables you and allows you to create a maximum of 3 index and have 3 indexers to index your data in an automated way, and also a limit of 50 megabytes of storage. Okay, so that means you can, for free, you can get started using this service if you want. So let's review and create this resource. And last but not least, we are going to create our cognitive service instance as well, or resource. So I'm going to search for cognitive service, and let's select cognitive service. Once again, subscription, resource group, region, North Europe. I'm going to call it CS DPS demo. And I'm going to select the pricing tier, which is standard in this case. Now let's review and create. Pretty much what I'm doing at the moment is just creating the resource related to for the service that we are going to use. So hopefully we should have all the resource created. Let's just navigate to the resource group. So as you can see here, we have our Cosmos DB, we have our data factory, we have our search service, and we have our storage accounts. And it should also have the, let's just refresh the page maybe. Okay, and we have our cognitive service, okay, instance or resource created. So since we have our service and our resource created, now let me just show you one important detail, which is the datasets. Okay, so on the datasets, what do we have here? We have a CSV file which includes, as I told you, um, some columns with information related to each of the movies that we have here available. Let me just now do one thing. Go first to the, and let me just zoom in. Okay. So as you can imagine, the first row is our headers, and let me just connect here. Sorry. So the first row is pretty much our columns, and then we have several rows with that are related to each of the movies that we have available in these data sets. As you can see, you have the ID of the movie, you have the title, you have the genres, and you have the year, and of course the rating as well to classify the movie. So let's get started by using use this store these data sets. So we are going to our storage accounts. We are going to storage browser on the left, and here on the storage account, if you are not familiar, don't worry, you have time using the resource that I'm going to share with you to explore more in detail the storage accounts. But for now, so you have Blob containers that enables you to store unstructured data, including image, videos, and more. Also, you have file shares that you can create to share files with your colleagues and team. Also, you have queues in case you want to store and create data in queues and process it in order, and these kind of scenarios. And also you have tables in case you want to store tabular data in tabular formats. You can create tables in storage account and store the data as well. For the purpose of this demo, we are going to create a container in a blob container. We are going to call it data. The access, we are going to leave it as private. We are not serving this publicly. And inside the container, we are going to upload our file. So I'm going to just drop the file here, and I'm going to upload. Okay, we have our movies DB. So this data set anyway is available in the Microsoft official GitHub repository. So if you just do a quick search there, you should find the data set there. If not, feel free to ping me, and I will provide you the links for these data sets. So we have our data sets uploaded to the storage accounts. And remember, if we go back to the presentation, so remember, we want now to use Data Factory to import the data from our data sets, movies data sets, and copy that data and store it in our Cosmos DB accounts. Okay, so let's go back, and let's go back first to our Cosmos DB. So we created our Cosmos DB accounts. If we go to the Data Explorer here in our accounts, we need to now create our database and our container. So let's create our container. And while creating your container, you need to, of course, associate the container with the database. Since we don't have any existing database, we are going to create a new one. I'm going to call it data. I'm going to leave the default settings, including the scaling. I'm going to put manual. We don't need auto scale. And the container ID, we are going to call it movies. The indexing, we are going to leave the default automatic. So that means it will automatically index all the fields that you have in your in the documents that you are creating in your Cosmos DB account and container. And the partition key, we are going to leave the default, which is the ID. Okay, it's really important just to highlight that while reviewing the resource that I'm going to share with you, you should, if you want and plan to use Cosmos DB, to build NoSQL database with documents DB and document data, then you should consider to explore this partition key setting, because it's really important. Because one of the major benefits of Cosmos DB service is the fact that it enables you to globally distribute your data across regions, and that means have your data closer to the location of your users. So if you have an application that is is accessed by users in different continents and countries, you can replicate that data across the different countries and continents and have the data close to the users, okay, location. So it's really important that you explore the partition key so you understand how you should partition your data. This will of course vary depending on the type of data you are consuming, and so and pretty much the idea is for you to ensure that you create as many as possible logical partitions that enables you to distribute your data as much as possible across the different physical partitions and the different locations. For now, let's leave the defaults and don't worry so much. You don't need to understand these concepts for now to get started. So let's create, in this case, we are just creating our container to store our data. And in this case, the container related to the movies, okay, which is the data that we want to store. Hopefully this will be quick. Okay, we have our database, and also as you can see here we have our movies container, and at the moment of course it's empty, so we don't have any items, okay, created. So now what we are going to do is we are going to our resource group. I'm going to leave this tab open, and I'm going to open a new tab so we don't lose where we are, and we are going to data factory. Okay, so we are going now to configure our data factory and create our pipeline to import the data from storage account to Cosmos DB. So data factory, you use to use data factory, use the Azure Data Factory Studio. So let's just after you open your data factory resource, then you can click here to open the studio, and then use of course the studio to just configure your resource and your pipeline. So let's start by go to the manage option on the left menu, and before we start to build our pipeline and configure our data sets, we need to configure the linked service, because remember, our data factory pipeline will have two dependencies. So we'll use the Azure Storage account to read the data, and we'll use the Cosmos DB account to persist and store the data. Okay, so let's start by creating our linked service. We start by searching for storage, and you have here Azure Blob Storage. Let's continue. Let's provide it a name. I'm going to call it DPS storage service. Okay, or yeah, DPS, it's fine. Now you can select your storage account. So you select your subscription and then you select your storage account. As you can see here, ST DPS demo, the one that we just created, and just create the linked service. Now, one important detail is we need to enable here one important configuration, which is, no, sorry, this is at the dataset level. So don't worry. Now we need to create our linked service related to Cosmos. So once again, we search for Cosmos. Be careful about selecting the correct API, in this case SQL API, and we are going to call it once again the DPS Cosmos service. And once again, we select from our subscriptions, we select our Cosmos DB accounts, and then the database that we want to use. We create, and now it's all good. We have the two services that we need created. We should be good to go on the left menu to Author to start creating our pipeline and data sets. Let's start by creating our data sets. So we just select the option New Data Set. Again, storage. We select Blob Storage. We select the type of information that we want to process. In this case, delimited text CSV file. Continue. We provide it a name. I'm going to call it movies DS inputs. We select the linked service to these data sets. In this case, it's the linked service that we just created. And then we are going to navigate to select our file. In this case, the movies.db CSV file. So we just, one important detail is this, don't forget this setting which says first row as header. So then it is enabled to consider the first row as the header and identify the different columns. Now, once you create the data sets, you can review the different configurations here, including the column delimiter. In this case, it's comma because we are using CSV, and also any other relevant parameters that you may find. Okay. Then also on here in the under the connection tab, you have one important option here that is preview data, that enables you to preview your data. So as you can see here, we are able now to see the list of movies as we saw from the CSV. So this is showing that our data set is correctly configured and is able to access the data successfully. Now let's create our data set related to Cosmos. Once again, select the correct API, SQL API. We are going to give it a name, movies DS output, and the linked service, in this case the Cosmos service that we just created, and we select the container which is the movies. Okay, we just select OK. Now we have the two data sets that we need, the input data set and the output data sets. Now it's all about just creating the pipeline and running the pipeline to import our data from storage account to Cosmos. So let's go to pipelines and then create our pipeline. I may need to zoom out a bit here. Let's see. Okay, so we are able to see this properly. So on the left, while we are composing and building your pipeline, you have several activities available that you can use under these categories and groups. For copying the data, we are going under the move and transform, and we are going to use the copy data. Okay, there is one important detail I want to share with you is in case you would have scenarios of several transformations with your data while importing your data, then you could consider to use a data flow that would give you more flexibility to perform transformation and cleaning of your data before you import the data to your final or output data store. Okay, for this, for the purpose of this demo, let's just use the copy data. It's an easy way to get started. Let's provide it a name, copy movies. Now on the copy data activity, we need to configure the source. In this case, it's our storage account. We just select our data sets, and then you can review the additional settings. For now, we don't need. You can also preview the data. As you can see here, it's all good with our data. And also you need to configure the sink or the destination of your data. And in this case, it's our data set related to Cosmos DB. One important detail is write behavior. We should, in this case, select upsert. So in the scenario of you run your pipeline multiple times, you don't want your pipeline to fail or even duplicate the data. So if you select upsert, that means it will insert, and if it not exists, but if the data exists, it will update the data. So we leave the rest as is, and we should navigate to the next tab, which is the mapping. It's important that you configure the mapping between the input dataset and your output datasets. So if you would have data in both sides, you would be able to use the import schemas option. But since we don't have data on the right side on Cosmos because it's empty, we are not able to use this feature. So we need to do the mapping manually. So as you can see here, you just select the source, and then you provide using JSON path the path for the destination. So what we are saying here is the column on the source, on the storage account, well, on the CSV file movie, which contains an ID, will be mapped to the ID property in our Cosmos DB. Okay, because the ID is the identifier and the key of each movie. Now let's create a new mapping and let's continue to create the remaining mappings. Okay, so title, then all the rest should be the same. So genres, also year. I just selected genres again. It happens sometimes. Year and also rating. Last but not least, rating. This is a really important one when it comes to find the best movies. All right, once you are happy about what you did, you pretty much can validate your pipeline and your resource. As you can see here, no errors were found. We are all good. You can also publish your changes to ensure that you don't lose any changes that you do. The publishing process should be quick, as you can see here, just completed. And now let's debug and run our pipeline to import our data. So this may take close to 2 minutes if I'm not wrong. Let's just see how it goes. I mean, in the meantime, just drinking a bit of tea. Um, I'm feeling a bit ill lately, and yeah, some tea, it's always good. So okay, so we have our pipeline running. As you can see here, it pretty much provides you the run ID, including the name. You can also see the details of your pipeline if you want. You can open these details and see, for example, how many files are read, how many rows, and everything that are relevant. You pretty much can see here all of this. Um, and of course it will update and will run until it completes. Also, in case it fails, you can also see here under the details, you can see the reason of failure and then troubleshoot your issue as well and try to understand what went wrong with your pipeline. Now, let's just wait a little bit while we wait for our pipeline to finish. In the meantime, I'm going back to the diagram of the demo just to share with you a few details. So at the moment we are running our pipeline using Data Factory. So once we have the data in Cosmos, what we are going to do is we are going to use our resource of Azure Search, and we are going to import the data to create an index that will contain all the data related to our movies. And also I'll show you a demo app showing the search capabilities that you can uh, easily provide in your apps using this Azure Search service. Also, while we configure the process to import the data from Cosmos to Azure Search, you will also see how you can connect cognitive service, so the resource and the instance that we just created, how to connect that instance with the Azure Search indexer to pretty much while indexing our data, in this case the data related to the movies, it will process the title of each movie and will perform some enrichments. So it will, for example, extract key phrases from the title. It will detect the language. It will translate the text in case it's a foreign language or a language different than English. It will also detect people and anything relevant in the title fields. And then, of course, once we complete configuring our Azure Search, as I told you, while configuring your index on Azure Search, you have an option as well to create projections. You will see more in detail soon. And using those projections, then you can use also downloads a template that is available there for you, a template of a report, a Power BI report that you can open and start to use Power BI, in this case Power BI desktop, in your local machine for free, and start to use that report to see the advantage that you can leverage by using Power BI and providing those reports and dashboards to your teams and to your end users. Okay, so let's go back to the portal. Hopefully the pipeline is completed. As you can see, it's green. You have the duration. You also have all the relevant information related to the pipeline. So the amount of rows that read, the amount of rows written as well, the time, the throughput, and all the relevant information pretty much. Now we have our so the pipeline just ran successfully, so we should be able to go to our Cosmos, just refresh our items in on the movies container, and if I select one item, you should be able to see, as you can see here, the item related to the movie, which is the Alice doesn't live here anymore, the genres drama romance, the year 1973, rating, and these are internal fields including the row ID and the timestamp. So these are internal fields created by Cosmos DB service to manage your data. Okay, as you can see, you have all your data available in your here in Cosmos. Also, since you are using the SQL API, you can also run SQL queries. So you can open a new tab to run a SQL query, and you can start to say, first, let's do a select all, select star. Then, so as you can see here, you have the zoom is not, yeah, is not helping so much. Let me just try to, yeah. So as you can see, we have here one of the movies. Also, if I collapse this, I have another movie, Four Musketeers, the Four Musketeers movie, then Animals and Beautiful People, and so on. So you have documents, JSON documents with JSON objects with all the data that you just imported from your CSV file. Okay. Also, of course, you can just do queries such as contains genres, let's say comedy, to just filter the comedy movies. And as you can see here, we have here one comedy movie, then another comedy movie, Animals Are Beautiful People, then another one, The Tin Man, Private Life of Henry VIII, and many more. I'm Not Angel, and as you can see, many more. So this is a quick way. So if you are familiar with Transact SQL from SQL Server, so this syntax is really it's similar. It's not the same, but it's similar. So you can start to run your queries to your data. So now what we are going to do is we have our data in our Cosmos DB. Let's go back to our resource group. Let's go to our search service, and let's start by importing the data so we can create our index and also start to use and search for our data. Okay, so you go to the search service, to the instance that you just created, you select the option import data. Then you need to configure a data source of your data. In this case, we have Cosmos DB. As you can see here, there are plenty of options available that are supported. We are going to select Cosmos DB. We are going to select choose an existing connection. As you can see here, we have our Cosmos DB here selected. We are going to give it a name to the data source. Okay. And we are going to select our database, which is data, and our collection, which is movies. Optionally, you can configure a query in case you want to filter the data and not import all the data to Azure Search. Okay, you can configure your queries here to filter the data that you import. Let's go to the next step, which is the cognitive skills. It's here that's on the cognitive skills that's sorry. It's here on the cognitive skills that we can attach our cognitive service instance, which is the CSDPS demo that we just created, and add our enrichments to our data. Let me just zoom in again. So add the enrichments by creating a skill set and then selecting the source data field. In this case, it's the title that we are going to use. And as you can see here, you have plenty of text cognitive skills available, including extract people's names, organization names, location names, key phrases, detect language, translate text, and even extract personal information. So I'm going to select everything. As you can see here, this will create new fields in our Azure Search Index and will populate those fields with the data, the enriched data. Another important detail is the save enrichments to a knowledge store. So again, we are going to save the projections in our storage accounts. We are going to select um, our existing storage accounts as TDPS, and we are going to create a new container. We are going to call it projections. We are going to leave it as private, and we are going to select our container. Okay. And now, as you can see here, you can download the Power BI templates. I downloaded already. I don't need to download. I will show you. But if you are trying to reproduce this demo, you have here the link to download these Power BI templates, which pretty much provides you a template of a Power BI report that you can start to use to analyze the data. You will see in a moment how you can start to do it. Now that we have our enrichments and our projections configured, let's configure our target index. So let's start by giving a name. I'm going to call it movies index. The key, we can leave the default. Year, or actually we can select the ID. You need to configure your index. So as you can see here, you have these settings: retrievable, filterable, sortable, fastable, and searchable. So retrievable is all the information that you want to retrieve in your search results when you do your queries. Filterable is the fields that you want to enable the users and allow the users to use in your queries while filtering the data. Sortable is, of course, as the name implies, it's all the fields that you want to enable to be sortable, okay, to use in sort criteria. Fastable is for faceted search. You will see in a moment what it means. And searchable is for the free text. So if you are writing in the text box and writing text to search for your data, this is the setting that you want to use for the fields that you want to enable to be searchable. Okay. So retrievable, we are going to enable everything. Filterable, everything. Sortable, we are going to say by year and rating. Year and rating. Fastable by rating, and searchable just by title, genre, and ID. Okay. Wait, sorry. Title, genre, and ID. Okay. And I accidentally just disable this. So let's make this as well searchable. Okay. So now we have our index configured, and let's just proceed. And once again, don't worry so much about these settings. You have your time and on your own pace to review all of these using the resource that I'm going to share with you. Now we are going to provide a name for the indexer. The indexer is the component on the Azure Search responsible to index our data. The setting, the schedule will be once. Okay, we just want to run this once, but you can optionally configure it to run it hourly, daily, or even in a custom schedule, using a custom schedule. So this will start to create our index and configure everything. So once you submit the option to import the data and create your index, you should be able to navigate to the index tab. And here, or also the indexers, it's important that I show you first the indexers maybe. So as you can see here, we have the index created, movies index. We are going in a minute there. We also have the indexers that is responsible to index our data. We have our data source that we configured for Cosmos DB. we have the skill sets that we configured with all the relevant skills. In here, you can have details about the skills that is performing. As you can see here, it's processing an entity recognition skill. Also, it's performing a key phrase extraction skill to just extract key phrases from the text. Also, a language detection skill to just detect the language in the text, in the title field. Also, a translation skill and many more skills. Okay. Optionally, you can also edit these skills and add your own skills by just leveraging the skill definition templates available, as you can see here. So let's leave this as is, and let's go to our indexer. Let's just navigate to the indexer, and as you can see, we have the movies indexer, and it's at the moment running, it's in progress. And if we go to the again to the details of the run, you also have here a message that will show if there are any errors or warnings that happen while it's processing the data. Okay, hopefully this will not take too much time. um, Let me just try to see and navigate to the index to see if we have already some information. So on the index, if you navigate to the index, you have here the search explorer that enables you to just run some queries. One important detail is Azure Search use OData protocol, so to enable you to run your queries using a standards way, in a standard way. So if you are not familiar with OData, you can explore a bit to just understand, but it's pretty simple. So let's just run here a search to see if we have any data. We need to allow the portal to query our data. As you can see here, we have data already here. So let's say that I want to filter um, I want to filter movies of genre comedy. Okay, so I can say genres equals comedy. I just ran the search, and now I have here my comedy movies. And now let's say that and year equals 2009. I don't know if there are any comedy movies of in 2009. No, maybe 2005, because I saw that one. Yeah, in 2005 we have definitely these movies, and as you can see here, I just need to zoom out a bit more. Yeah, now we can see clearly. So we have here the search score, which is the max one. It means that so for each query that you perform, you have a score associated to give some kind of confidence level about the results of your query. And as you can see here, one is the maximum, so there is a direct match to this movie. As you can see here, we have the title, ID, genres, year, and rating of the movie that came from our CSV file, but also we have fields such as people, organizations, key phrase, language, and of course mask text and personal information. That is the enrichments that we did using cognitive service. So I think we have other movies here: Nacho Libre, year 2005, genres comedy. Also, we have here looking for comedy in the Muslim world, comedy 2005. So as you can see here, you can run a few queries to just once again test your data and access your data, and also test your Azure Search instance. You also can manage your fields using this tab. You also can configure core settings if you need. Scoring profiles, you can create scoring profiles to just in scenarios that you want to prioritize certain data in relation to the rest of the data. So for example, if you want to make the title a more important column in comparison with the rest of the other columns in your data sets, you can create scoring profiles and apply weights to those fields to make those fields more important or more significant than the others. Okay, Now, one important detail I want to share with you is here this option that you have here, create demo app, that enables you to just create your demo, a quick demo app that enable you to preview the search capabilities you have available, and also test them before enabling them on your application. So here, as you can see here, you can configure the information you want to show, title of the movie, and then on the description, let's show the rating. Then sidebar, you can, as you can see here, for the faceted search, we have the rating, which will be a checkbox, and also suggestions for the fields, including ID and title. Okay. Once you are happy, create the demo app. Let's create it. Let's just save it. And let's open our demo app. So if I just run enter, as you can see it, I have my list of movies, including the title of movie and the rating for each of the movies. I can filter using the faceted search. So to just see the top movies, what are the most, the best movies essentially. And also you can run queries. So for example, if you are a fan of Star Wars or Star Trek, I can just search for Star Trek, and as you can see here, I have a movie, or Star Wars, and I have here um, Star Wars. Sometimes, unless I don't have the movie, let me just double check. I may be doing something wrong. I wouldn't be surprised. Search Wars. Maybe let's search for Star Trek. Okay, maybe what happens is, sorry, what happens is, maybe let's just see here, maybe the indexer did not finish yet the import of the data, and consequently, yeah, it's still in progress, so consequently it doesn't has all the movies yet. That's why it's not showing Star Wars movies. But yeah, definitely there is a Star Wars movie, or a few movies related to Star Wars, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, this may take a while to just complete. I'm, I'm not sure if we'll be able as you can see here, Star Wars. So it just came in right now. Star Wars, the movie. Okay. So this is just to show you. So this demo app enables you to have a quick preview of the search capabilities that the Azure Search provides you. This is not the only capabilities you have. Of course, you have a lot of simple and complex capabilities, including geospatial queries, to do queries based on your geospatial data, and many other features, relevant features that you have available. So now we have our search. Let's go back to our diagram, and the last part will be the Power BI. So let's do one thing. I'm going to open here the template that I just told you that you can download. This will open Power BI Desktop. You can download Power BI Desktop for free and install in your own machine. And then you just need to, of course, connect with connect with your accounts. Um, I'm just trying to move this, which is not enabling me. Let me just try to, okay, let me just try to load this here, and let me try to open here these these reports. No, actually not. This is not a report. One second, please. Okay, so this is the template we should be opening. It's just coming. Oh, it's opening in a. Okay, let me just configure here. So when you open the templates, for some reason it's not opening here in my screen, but when you open the okay, when you open this template, you will be required to perform some configurations, including specifying the skill set name that you just configured. So let me just come here and get the skill set name. Then the content field, which is the title, then the documents, the knowledge store storage accounts that you just use to save your projections. So let's go back to our resource group and then go to our storage accounts. We have here the name of the storage accounts. Also the SAS URI for the storage account. We need to create a SAS token. I'm going to just enable all the, by default, all the permissions, but that definitely this is not a good practice for production workloads. Okay, don't you should follow the least privilege principle. And once you configure the SAS URI that you can pull here from creating your shared access signature from the portal, you should be able to just load the data. These will start to load the data to your reports. I'm just going to, I need as well the access key. It will ask you for the access key for the storage accounts. I'm going to just provide the access key. And now this will start to load the data to the reports. In the meantime, just a bit more of tea. Okay, and I just want to show you quickly, of course, this template may vary depending on your data. What I want to show you here is quickly how is the look and feel using this report in Power BI. So as you can see here, we have several different pages. On the second page, you have here some key phrase clouds that contains a lot of key phrases extracted from the contents. You can select those key phrases. Let me just try to zoom in enough to show you how it works. So you can see clearly. So if I select, for example, dark life, it will pretty much sorry, life. It will filter and show me all the movies related to this key phrase. Also, if I just select, let's see something more specific, America, as you can see here, all kids in America, angels in America, lost in America. So all the movies related to America or even Africa. You have here, I dreamed of Africa, Madagascar. Also, let's see if there is the star. Should be here. Uh, I'm not finding the word. um, yeah, not really finding the word here, but that's fine. Okay, so also, of course, you can as well pretty much just use the search box, and for example, if you just hit by star, you can see your Star Trek, Star Wars, Superstar. You have all Star Trek, the movies, and you have all the relevant results. So this enables your users to easily come here as well, open the report, and start to export the data. Also, you have Graph Viewer that enables you to see the relations between your key phrases. Okay, so for example, as you can see here, America related to kids, related to angels, angels related to Charlie, Apocalypse, And also you have here other other relationships, for example, planets, apes, scape, Africa. So these relations enables you to easily as well find correlations between your data as well. So as you can see here, it's really useful visualization that you can leverage to just understand more and explore more your data. Of course, this is just a simple scenario of movies, but remember, imagine, for example, scenarios of using your data, the data of your organization, your company, related to sales or related to also uh, products in the market that from the concurrency or the and features and so on. You could correlate all these data and leverage smart search queries to just quickly find results based on, well, using the data that you have available. And given that, I think we concluded our demo. This is, as I told you, this is just to show you a simple way to get started. Don't worry so much about the deep details, and because essentially, as I used to say, you can spend hours, days reading about stuff, but probably a lot of the stuff you end up forgetting, and nothing like clearly uh, doing some experiments and using building some sample solutions using this service to get some hands-on experience and really understand the knowledge and the topics and the concepts related to this service. Given that, if you have any questions, feel free to share the questions in the chat. I'm happy to just answer them right now. And of course, once again, follows the list of the resources that I think are relevant um, for this topic and to help you get started building your data solutions on Azure. Definitely these resources that are pretty much links um, to Microsoft documentation and Microsoft learning modules that's in a view guided process with curated content and all the relevant content and exercise and steps that can help you learn about this service and also learn how to get started using them. If you want to connect, feel free to connect with me. Follows my Twitter handle at hmsbarona, and also my blog. I tend to post about the certifications I'm doing. I share my study guides, my resource that I use to prepare for the certifications. So follows the link of my blog www.hugobarona.com. And of course, a special thanks to Microsoft for supporting this event and supporting the groups organizing this event, including Data Platform Geeks and the SQL Server Geeks. And thank you to you as well once again. I hope you enjoyed this session. I really appreciate your time, and I hope that you find it relevant and useful. I apologize if I had to rush a bit in certain parts of this session. I would like to spend more time to give you more details, but definitely if I want to cover many different things as I try to cover in the demo, I definitely need to skip certain parts in order to make it on time. But yeah, I invite you, if you have any question, if you need any help, feel free to connect with me, and I'm happy to help you. And last but not least, you have a chance here to win prize in these events. So you can win prize in different ways, including if you post a selfie with the hashtag DPS 2022 on social, if you give this session and the conference feedback, which is really important, so we can learn how to improve things and make things better for you next time. And also you can visit our well, the event sponsors and the exhibitors as well. And don't forget to follow the Twitter of these groups organizing this event, Data Geeks and Data AI Summit accounts on Twitter as well. And thank you once again. Have a great day and see you around.